Hi, I'm Olivia, and I am looking for a quantum job again. And this time I have invited Abby.
Hello.
To help me find a job. Last time when we were looking for quantum jobs, Nick and I were mostly looking for quantum engineering, quantum hardware focused roles because that's what our background and expertise is in. But we thought it might be helpful to share some typical software engineering type jobs with you this time, among others as well. So why don't we get started?
Let's go.
All right, so this is the first job that Abby has selected for us to review. The title is Software Engineer, Quantum Error Correction.
This is interesting already from the title. First of all, I very rarely see software engineering job titles that include the word quantum to begin with. Yeah. But now specifically here they're mentioning quantum error correction. So that's already another a subset of even just quantum software engineering. Yep. So that makes me, I guess, curious to see what this post is going to be about, and it's kind of interesting to see how error correction as a field is progressing to the point where they're hiring, actual software people to kind of join in with that kind of area of research. So
let's see what experience I would need. A bachelor's degree.
Or equivalent practical experience. Again, this is interesting because the trap that I see a lot of employers falling into for software roles is they'll be very specific on you must have a bachelor's degree in computer science, which, when you're in a already quite a niche, if just generally hiring software developers with that kind of background is sometimes hard. You get a lot of software people that are coming from less traditional academic backgrounds into software. And then especially in a field like quantum, which is even more niche, you're not always guaranteeing that the people applying to your jobs will have the same kind of cookie cutter degree background.
You also need 5 years of experience with software development in C++ and Python. Those are the pretty standard languages, I would say, for the quantum engineering fields. It particularly calls out data structures and algorithms. Not surprising.
That's always telling to me when I see that, because that means that you're probably going to get the kind of infamous software engineering type of interview where that means that this employer will probably be asking you to know how to do a binary search or
LeetCode code type problems.
LeetCode type problems, you need to be on it with those data structures and those algorithms. So yeah, if you see the word data structures and algorithms in a software engineering job post, you got to be kind of doing those LeetCode problems every day, making sure that you can kind of talk about that. Even if practically you don't use them very much in your day-to-day, you kind of have to prove you have that baseline level of knowledge.
3 years of experience testing, maintaining, launching software products, 1 year with design or architecture, and then experience with HPC, which is high performance computing, real-time operating systems, kernel driver development, concurrency, code development, systems programming. Is that pretty typical stuff?
Yeah, I would say this is pretty typical for a kind of mid to senior level kind of software kind of job description.
And I think that you can definitely tell that this is not an entry-level position also by looking at the preferred qualifications. It says it prefers somebody with a higher level technical degree, a master's or a PhD, and 1 year of experience in a technical leadership role. So both of those say to me, we're looking for a mid to senior level software engineer. And I think maybe what's interesting to point out too, maybe people don't always know this, but there's a wide range of bands or levels that fall within mid to senior level software engineering jobs. And usually when you're interviewing, figuring out what band or level to hire you at is part of the interview process. So they might say, we're looking to hire somebody for this role that's in a range of levels from 3 to 5 or something like that. And they're fine with anybody in that range, but what you actually will get hired at is very important, and so you have to negotiate that as part of your interview process.
I think you can also tell a little bit from the salary range that I think they have included that here. They give you quite a broad range in the salaries, so probably where you fit on that spectrum will translate to your level of experience. So if a tech lead was applying for this job, they would probably be more eligible for the top range of that salary. If you're not a tech lead, if you have less experience, you'll probably be more likely to get the kind of the lower end of this range. Mm-hmm. But also good that they're publishing their salary ranges. That is...
We love salary transparency. Yeah. That's great. So other preferred qualifications, experience developing accessible technologies.
Ooh.
I've never seen that before.
So what I'm interpreting this is anytime you're going to be doing some kind of user-facing software development, so particularly if you're building websites or platforms that have kind of the general public interacting with them, you kind of should be thinking about accessibility. So that's how easy it is for people to use your product. But there's this idea of designing technologies with an accessibility mindset from the get-go, because even though you are kind of addressing like a potentially niche area of users, the benefits that come actually can affect a very wide range of users.
The other preferred qualifications are experience interfacing with hardware, FPGA systems, experience with automation monitoring, or release management. Pretty typical stuff, right?
Yeah, so that's probably stuff like CI/CD pipelines, like logging, pushing out software releases, things like that. Yeah.
And then the last one is knowledge of quantum computing and or error correction.
I like how that's put on like the preferred.
I know, that's kind of funny because I feel like error correction, at least to me, is one of those things where it's so technical and there's so much literature that unless you're already actively working in the field and publishing in the field, it would be pretty hard to jump into a role like this. I don't know if I'm qualified for this role, but I think this is a perfectly good post. I think that this would be, probably a great job. Hopefully they can find somebody because, like you said, it's pretty specific. All right, next.
We have a quantum client delivery lead. What does the title tell us already?
I'm going to be working with clients if I get this role, and I'm some type of lead.
That's also kind of what I get. Oh, and we're doing something quantum related.
Oh, good. What qualifications do I need to have?
Strong client delivery engagement and relationship management skills and experience.
Okay, that means you need to have a proven track record of making your clients like you.
3 years of experience in leading successful delivery engagements, project management and client relationship management.
Basically what I gather from this role is it's not entry level. This, I would say, is solidly mid. But they need basically people who understand what quantum computing is. You can't come in totally blind to the technology, and they need somebody who has good interpersonal relationship skills, somebody who's going to be very organized, somebody who's going to be able to work with clients, but talk to them about technical concepts, but maybe not at a super detailed technical level. Like it says here, somebody who's more on the enterprise or C-suite level, which means an executive, who's sort of farther removed from being an individual contributor and like building the software or the technology themselves, but they still need to have a really good grasp of where it's going.
Yeah, it definitely seems like quite a broad audience that this person would have to be kind of interacting with.
This would be a great role for somebody who's an excellent science communicator. I cannot emphasize enough how organized you have to be for these types of roles.
Yeah.
Super organized. You have to be pretty fluent in product and project management software. You have to know how to use them like the back of your hand. You have to be very organized. And often this involves bothering people and telling them to follow up with you and give you the information or the content that you asked for weeks ago that they were supposed to have delivered by a specific date. So a lot of this is also stakeholder management as well. Achieve a high NPS promoter score of 9 or 10 in the client engagements that you lead.
Now that is helpful.
That is helpful, but yeah. I think if this has an acronym, and I hate acronyms, you should not use acronyms in a job posting, at least without defining them.
Oh, also, they say NPS, which stands for Net Promoter Score. So they're saying NPS promoter score, so Net Promoter Score, promoter score. Like when people say ATM machines.
Right, it doesn't make sense. Grammar aside, at least that's something very tangible. So it's basically just a satisfaction rating that your clients give you, I think, at the end of the year in terms of how likely they are to, keep working with you and to recommend you to other clients as well. Cool.
Sounds good.
Next job.
Okay, we have another software job. Quantum software systems architect / engineer.
You're going to be typing on a computer a lot. But it says roles and responsibilities, extensive experience with software design for hardware control, and effective at developing close working relationships with collaborators. I feel like this is like so vague.
Oh wait, but they do break it down into like minimum and preferred. So these, I guess, are just the...
This is also not a role or responsibility. So that bullet point, extensive experience with software design, is not a responsibility.
This looks like a very last minute cut and paste job description.
But that's okay. So minimum qualifications typically requires a minimum of 5 years of related experience with a bachelor's degree or 3 years and a master's degree or a PhD with no experience.
Okay. Again, pretty flexible in terms of if you have a more advanced academic background, they'll be willing to look for less time of working experience. But if the highest level of academic education you have is a bachelor's degree, then you'll be expected to demonstrate a longer period of relevant work experience, which I think is fair.
And I think maybe something to point out, because I didn't know this when I was applying to jobs straight out of my PhD, the experience that you have when you're doing your PhD counts towards work experience. I didn't know that for some reason. And when I was graduating, people were saying how many years of work experience do you have with Python? In my head, I would think 0, even though I knew some Python.
Because you've technically been a student.
Right, but I was technically a student, but that's not right. That's not what they're looking for. The correct answer is 5 or 6 or however long you had been using Python in graduate school.
And then it says experience in Python software development, signal generators, lasers, electro-optic modulators, single photon counting modules, and spatial light. I don't know what that has to do with Python software development.
This is the kind of programming that I did when I was in graduate school. Is I used Python to control all of the room temperature electronics and boxes basically in the lab. And so I had to learn how to interface and write drivers and different modules so that I could basically control all of the control electronics from my laptop. And I do view that as a very specific type of programming, actually, because that is what I have the most experience in. But when it comes to stuff like data structures and algorithms and leak code, I'm pretty useless because I pretty much only know how to program hardware and boxes. So I don't know. They're very different types of programming.
Okay, so this is kind of interesting to compare to the first one that we looked at, which was definitely erring more towards a software developer who can kind of muddle their way through the physics stuff, whereas this kind of role is someone that having that hardware experience is crucial, but if you've got that Python software skills, that's great too.
The next one is also kind of interesting. Desire and ability to work on system-level CAD modeling. Have you ever done CAD modeling?
It's a lot of moving pictures around on a GUI.
That's right, yes. But I'm surprised to see it in a job posting like this, actually.
Does it have any relevance to building quantum computers? I don't know.
Sure, yeah, it does. But I guess I wouldn't think of it as a software engineering role. To me, that's more of something that a hardware engineer does.
I like how specifically they put desire and ability to work on system-level CAD modeling. I don't know if that says something about how enjoyable.
Desire to work on CAD systems. So even if you're great at it, if you do not
do you want to be doing this every single day?
You're not getting that job. Okay, fair enough. Preferred qualifications, background in CAD modeling. I feel like that would be maybe a little bit more hard to find for a software engineer, but totally possible. And then the last one is software experience for quantum control.
It's interesting that the CAD stuff is something that I think they realize that maybe it's a hard skill to find plus everything else.
Right.
So they're willing to hire someone without significant experience in that area, but it would be a plus if you did have experience there. And crucially, it sounds like that is something that you will have to do as part of the job. So you should be willing to work on that. And even if you don't have experience with it, you should be willing to learn it.
Mm-hmm. Next.
Okay. Ooh.
Okay, I have no idea what the heck this is.
A quantum treasury consultant. This looks fun just from the name.
Yes.
I would apply
and
just
it's a mid to senior level role.
Oh.
So you have to have many years of doing quantum treasury consultancy, Abby. Skills required. Quantum financial modeling. Develop and implement quantum algorithms and models to simulate complex financial scenarios, including cash flow forecasting, risk assessment, portfolio optimization, liquidity. These are all things for sure that quantum computers could maybe do one day. These are, I'm at least happy to see listing very specific types of financial applications that I know people are working on in the field. So they've done their homework. They understand that quantum computing doesn't apply to everything. It could apply to these specific things. However, it is, further down the line in terms of how soon this is going to be implemented. I think that quantum financial algorithms definitely require better hardware in order to actually be implemented. So I think that this would be a lot of theory work.
I guess you could implement them, but you wouldn't get any useful results
That's
from them.
right. That's what we mean. Like, I certainly wouldn't put my 401k in this quantum financial modeling system yet, and I think there would be needing to see a little bit more proof of concept here. Treasury strategy optimization? I don't even know what this means.
Okay, so I'm assuming there is an area of finance that is called treasury, and they're looking, like, that's like, seems to be like a classical financial field, and they want to look for ways to apply quantum computing to that area.
Mm-hmm. But it sounds like you're going to have some help from some finance people and some data scientists.
Yes.
That's good.
Apply quantum optimization algorithms to enhance cash management, hedging strategies, capital allocation, and investment decisions while considering risk and regulatory requirements. We should just go down to FIDE and see if someone from there could tell us what this job is.
We would get mansplained so hard. Anyways, it says you need to come up with novel quantum algorithms for treasury and analytics, which sounds very difficult to me. Coming up with any novel quantum algorithms to me is a very ambitious goal. This is a research role.
I think it's going to be incredibly hard to find someone with like the relevant experience in both this specific area of finance plus like the quantum research background to be able to develop novel quantum algorithms.
No, I agree, because you pretty much, I don't want to say, you need a PhD to do this kind of work, but I feel like you might, because learning how to develop novel quantum algorithms is just so technical and so hard that it requires many years of education and training. So,
although it's interesting that they didn't even specify.
But they didn't specify
a level of degree.
Yes.
They don't even use the word research in this job posting.
It's a little bit of a weird job posting. Like, I have no doubt that this is a real job, and it seems like the people writing it do have some
understanding
pretty good idea of what they would be doing and what they want, but they aren't listing qualifications like typical job postings do. So that's a little weird.
I don't think they have a realistic understanding of the kind of people that would be able to fill this kind of position.
That's exactly what it is. They know what they want, but they don't know how to find those people, and they don't know probably the education and the experience that those types of people would have. This is an internal posting is also another possibility. Maybe they already have somebody in mind internally for this role, and just legally, this is a job posting that they had to put in public on the internet, even though they know who they're going to hire for this role. That's always a possibility when you see job postings. So that's another reason why, you might never hear back from a company once you apply to them, or you get ghosted or whatever. Sometimes it has nothing to do with you. Sometimes the company just already knows who they want to hire, and they just had to post the job for legal reasons. All right, shall we move on?
Yes. We have another consulting related one, I think. Like summer associate is just code for like consulting summer internship, in my understanding of it.
So it even says here, this is an internship program. About you, work with other researchers to document your findings and publish scientific papers. Okay, that's unusual, and that's cool to see, because a lot of these finance or consultancy type roles don't actually encourage publication, because a lot of their work has to be kept proprietary and internal. But I like this because I want to know what these people are doing, and I never get to really understand what's going on inside these, consulting hubs, because they're pretty secretive usually about their work. But if it says that they're looking for you to publish your findings, then that's pretty cool. And it's important for interns, of course, to build up their resume in that way as well.
This one actually feels more targeted to people with that research background, and they're kind of showing that you can still like pursue your research kind of academic career while doing this work in industry.
And then I don't know what this one means, but contribute to companies' IP by pursuing necessary protections of IP.
So basically that's saying, we'll let you publish some things in scientific papers, but also the secret sauce,
also the cool secret sauce, we're gonna
has to be IP.
We're gonna make that a patent. Yeah, that's what that means. But hey, maybe you'll get some patents on your resume.
Fair play, right? They're working in industry. You need to be doing stuff that is going to make the company money, as well as like the kind of open science. Like they seem to be doing like a little bit of both.
That's capitalism, baby. Key qualifications and skills. No prior familiarity with finance or financial use cases required. Okay, that's cool. That's an internship, so they're looking to teach you about finance things. They really expect somebody to come in, I think, with a more theoretical understanding, but not necessarily in financial applications specifically. So I like that. Preference is given to candidates with a strong publication record. Okay. So
I think this is pretty good.
This is a good post.
Yeah.
This is a good internship. If I was working in these areas, which I'm not, and if I was younger, which I'm not, I would apply to this job. I think this is a really solid post. I like that they want you to publish. I like that they're, looking to hire somebody with a strong publication record, because this says to me that we want to grow our company's eminence in a scientific field, which I like, because that means, you're probably not only going to be publishing, you're going to be going to conferences, you're going to be presenting at conferences, and that's the, scientific community vibe that I like.
They're opening it up quite broad. Like, they could see someone with a quantum information theory background having just as much value as someone who comes from like a symmetric key cryptography background, which is like quite different areas of research, but both could potentially have value here. Whether you're from like a classical software background or like a quantum theory background.
It's a great post, sounds really interesting. So that was the last job posting that we found that we thought might be relevant. What did we learn today, Abby?
The job hunting is hard.
Job hunting is really hard.
You gotta know a lot of Python. That's what I think.
You gotta know a lot
Pretty
of
much
Python.
Everyone asks for Python.
Yes. And another thing, I don't want to go on too long of a tangent on this, but another thing I will say is, coming from an academic background, I think a lot of people expect industry type jobs, which all of these were, to be sort of a fallback plan if you don't make it in academia. And I think what you can really tell from this video and from the postings that we saw are that these are very, very competitive jobs. These are hard to get. This is not a fallback plan by any means. This is something that you have to work hard for and aspire to, just like any academic position.
Yeah, and I think I'm just excited to see more and more software related jobs coming about. I think even, a few years ago when I was first, coming into this field, I don't think there were many jobs at all that were specifically advertised for a software audience. But now we're starting to see actually people that come from a traditional software background have a lot to offer, and there are kind of more specific coding and software and infrastructure related roles that don't necessarily always require a solid quantum background.
That's good. That means the field is growing and it's healthy and it's progressing along the timeline that we would expect it to. So that's all good. All right, well, I guess that's it for now. Thank you for joining us. And if you see any job postings that you're interested about, let us know in the comments.